and welcome to this session on the use of an evacuation chair. We have a posture right evacuation chair. It's bright green and it stands out in terms of its use. What we're going to cover today, just a bit of background in terms of fire safety and how it links to the use of evac chairs. PEEPs, they are called Personal Emergency Evacuation Plans. And then there's the session itself on how to use the evac chair. First of all, a key point to remember is don't get yourself at risk or put yourself or anyone else at risk as a result of a fire evacuation. And what we're asking you to do though is to think clearly and consider the need for a balanced approach to the risk. So do a dynamic risk assessment. If it's not safe for you to interact in any way at all, then just get out of the building. Look after number one, that's the first priority. So don't put yourself at risk. Think about where you are and what you need to do. Knowledge of the plan of the building is useful in terms of where the nearest exit points are. We have 3 sets of stairwells that go to points of safety externally. The main stairwell near reception is protected, and the doors that you don't normally think are open, what happens in the activation of a fire alarm is those doors at each level will shut. So the idea there, it will give protection for the members and staff to be able to evacuate downstairs so the fire won't spread. Now, where the lift is, there are refuge points at the side of the lift, but we also have refuge points in each of the stairwells. So get to know where the fire exits are and think about the signage or how it can be used. Now, as much as people are aware that fire exit signs are all around us, we tend to act like sheep in the event of a fire. And when the alarm goes off, many people go out the same way they come in, and that can cause congestion and problems. So if it was a full club and we had lots of people in the building, you can imagine if all 300 plus people tried to use the one exit route, it could cause issues. But the idea as well is to make sure there's sufficient opportunity to be able to take a different route, hence the 3 exits. However, a disabled person, typically someone in a wheelchair, but I'm going to say physically impaired member, might not be able to use the stairwells because they have limited use of the lower body. So as a result of that, we don't want to put themselves in a position where they could be stampeded or trampled on whilst going down the stairs. So it's our duty of care to provide this kind of response. And what we do is we do what's known as a personal emergency evacuation plan, whereby we'll sit with that disabled person or physically impaired member and explain to them what we have in place, what the best method is for getting out of the building when there is a fire alarm activation, and then discussing the do's and don'ts and what they can or cannot able to in terms of when this happens. Now, this only applies to above ground, so the first and second, and especially the roof, I should say. So if we think about if they could get into these areas by means of a lift, then when the fire alarm is activated, the lift is not in use. It is automatically designed to go down to the ground floor and then stop moving until the alarm is reset. So there's an issue around that, whereby we have to rely on these other means. So the personal emergency evacuation plan will have a chat with the disabled person, can talk about their options, and then we can explain what the purpose of a refuge point is, a place of relative safety, and we would like them to make their way to that refuge point rather than trying to get out by using the stairs. So it is a place of relative safety. It's supposed to offer at least 30 minutes protection. It's denoted by that sign, and in some cases you'll also have a communication button so you can tell people from the refuge point in another part of the building that you're still inside the building. Typically it's put in compartmented areas, lobbies, corridors and stairwells, and because they offer that protection that's needed. And it is a place for people to wait until confirmation is received that there is a real fire or an emergency situation. Now, the issue around that is, can you imagine if we didn't have refuge points and then we got to the bottom of the stairs and they'd really struggled, and then we say, oh, I'm sorry, it was false alarm. So that's one of the issues as well. It does prevent that unnecessary, awkward moment that could result in embarrassment for everybody. If at any time a person waiting at the refuge point feels they need to evacuate, then that's when the evacuation chair procedure is initiated. So an evacuation chair, it's basically a fold-up chair that can be stored away and used in the event of an emergency. So the purpose of this session is to be able to give you that underpinning knowledge to be able to unfold it, position it, transfer someone into it, then take them safely down the stairwell if that's the most appropriate thing to do. This particular chair is pretty good. It's probably one of the best ones on the market, to be honest. And you transfer from use of the wheels when you're on the flat to a track system that reacts by friction on the stairwell, and they're very sturdy. So it does offer that controlled movement to descend down the stairs. However, anybody that uses these needs to be trained in them so they use it appropriately and also don't put themselves and the evacuee at risk. Also, we can train up others like buddies and friends of a member that is physically impaired if they deem that necessary. So I've got a series of small short videos for each area. So first of all, the stored points.
To the area where the evac chair is stored. On top of the storage cover, there is an instruction leaflet, so you can read that to remind yourself if you can. Remove the cover from the chair by lifting up and pulling forward, and place the cover safely to one side.
So it's straightforward to lift the cover up off the evac chair and then wrap it up and put it somewhere safe so it's out of the way during the use of the evac chair itself. So the next is to take it off the wall. In this particular design, we have this bracket here, and there's a C-shaped clip in the design of the bracket. So there it is fitted on the wall, and the idea is it will fit into this handle point here, so that when it is up against the wall, it's upright and it doesn't pose too much in terms of space. But it literally is, as you'll see in the video, just pull it out of the C-clip.
Behind the evac chair, there is a bracket. To release it from the bracket, grab hold and pull forward.
So once we've got it off the bracket, we then need to move it into position and then unfold it. Now, it automatically, between use, has a brake system on. So the bottom wheels, the big wheels at the back, have brakes on them. Now, it's easier when the brakes are on, but you'll see from the handles how you can release the brakes later when I show you that section. Just in case it's not clear, this strap that's going around is one of the belt straps, the leg strap or the waist strap, to be used when it's open. But it serves in two purposes. When it's folded up and when we're putting it back after use, literally wrap it round again and clip it into position and then tighten it up. So then it's folded and put out of the way. But in order to open it up, you obviously need to open up that buckle as well, as you'll see now.
To open up or unfold the chair, to release the seatbelt, this acts as a folding system. So once you release the seatbelt, it should automatically. If it doesn't open, then use the release cable underneath to open. Tip the green support bar forward, and then use the lock pins. Extend that force out. lower down to position.
Now, you don't have to extend those handles. However, quite often from reassurance more than anything, you can imagine if somebody's strapped into that chair and it's going down the stairwell, if they know that someone's in front as well as behind them, there's a little bit more trust and, as I say, reassurance there. So, but also if you have a really heavy member that's sat in there, it may well need that. The friction that's caused that slows and controls that movement down will obviously should be better in a heavier person, but nevertheless it's that reassurance. So the two handles that pull out and extend forward can be used for the purpose of two people doing that lift. So the next stage is, once you've unfolded it, is to look at how you can then get the tracks into its position. As it says there, at the rear of the chair, there's a handle that's got a red label on it. So you can probably see it in the center of the picture here. So it literally is pull on that and that will release and allow that to drop down. Sorry, the blue aspect is required for moving that down. So I'll show you the video on it.
To extend the back, the bar forward, and then allow it to clip into position. This will give you extra leverage during movement. And then finally, to prepare for going to the stairs, pull the blue bar to the
Okay, so you've got the red handle for lifting up the extendable bar, which gives you that extra leverage and fulcrum, and then you've got the blue handle for extending the track outwards. There's also a foot release, and that's right the front. So release the leg strap. You don't have to strap people's legs into position. Sometimes members might, or evacuees might say, I don't want that to happen, but nevertheless, typically, if you use that blue leg strap, wrap it round, attach it, typically as you saw with the buckles there. And the other point is to not let it dangle down onto the floor, because it might get caught under the track during movement or under the wheels. So just double check before you move forward that everything's as it should be. But obviously that green bar that's going to drop down is literally a footrest. And once they're on the footrest, you can use the blue leg straps to secure the evacuee into position. So this is another type of evacuation chair, but nevertheless, you can see how it's structured, very similar in design, but movement is in two ways. Either when you're on the flat, they're on the four wheels, or as they're going down the stairs, then they're on the track. So once they're actually in the evac chair, the person will be secured into it with the belts. There are 4 belts. There's a head restraint, one that goes around your stomach, one that goes around your legs, and then the other one that goes around the feet. That's optional. Yeah. What you're trying to do is avoid that involuntary movement because people like tense up as they're going down because of the trust that's needed, and they feel as though they're going to fall. So they're not in control, and therefore they're relying on other people. So in order to do that, you don't want that involuntary movement. You kind of like strapping the body in place. It makes it more comfortable during descent, but also ask the user or the evacuee that's sat in the chair to place the hands on the lap, so there's no elbows out or other obstructions that could get caught on the way during descent. Once they're in there and the buddy or the first responder is happy that they're in a nice, secure and comfortable position, then you can just test by tipping it backwards. Now, if it's a heavier person, it's awkward. There's actually a foot position you can put on the back, which is yellow. So put your foot on the yellow bar, and that will help you create that fulcrum point and pivot back. If you still can't get control of it, then consider putting the brakes on as well. And then once the brakes are on and your foot's on the footrest, tilt backwards. Couple of videos here then in terms of how to secure people into the evac chair. And the first one is just going to show you about the this upright for the head strap, and then I'm going to show you on the second video the use, should we say, once the strap's in.
On the extended arms, which is used for leverage, you can adjust the headrest. The head can go here, and then for extra security, so the person can fall out, you can put that around the forehead, Velcro strap. Similarly, you will have seat belts, so during movement down the stairs. There are 3 points of restraint. There's the first buckle around the legs, which is adjusted at the side. You then put similar seat belt around the waist, again adjusted at the side. And then finally, you've got the head restraint, adjusted by Velcro at the top. It's held onto the handle system by Velcro at the back. There are 3 points of restraint.
So once they're in and they're secure, then there's this movement, should we say, it's necessary to get them safely transitioned down the stairwell. There's a couple of things to consider. There's the positioning at the top of the stairwell, ready to move down, and that's done on the wheels first of all, and then changing position onto the track. So there's that tilt backwards. And then we've also got to consider an issue that's just a physical bulk problem in terms of transition round a corner. So if you think about potential obstructions like the handrails, the banister that could be in the way, but when you get down one level and you're on a landing area, which is happening in at least 3 places at the club, then you'll see that if you don't approach it from the right angle, it can again cause problems. So you're going to see in the next video how we need to get as close to the inner edge as would need be in order to not make it awkward for ourselves. In that transitional movement, we need to consider the brakes and how to use them. Each brake can be locked on by squeezing the brake lever and pushing in the silver locking spring. So on both of the hand brakes, there's a locking spring. The brake lever can then be released and the brake will remain on whilst the silver locking pin is pushed. So eventually when you do move it forward, the brakes will release. So just be aware of that. And again, short video here just to show the use.
In order to take control of the maneuver when the Evac chair is on its wheels, there is a braking system. So the brakes will hit on place on the wheels, release the brakes, and you can move forward.
So now I'm thinking about approaching the stairs and then the tilt action that's necessary. Once on the stairs and the track takes over, bear in mind what I said before about the friction and the traction that's gained by that movement. So the weight is actually pushing into the track, which is on the edges of the stairwell. In tilting it back, as I mentioned before, if you find it awkward, then use the yellow labelled bar. I'm going to call it a foot bar. It's about knee height at the back in the middle. So look for the yellow and then use that as your pivot point if you can't transfer it easily.
One of the key things in terms of function of Evac is the transfer from the level to the steps themselves. So we're going to move forward wheels and then tip back. Place the extension on this will give you the leverage now to then transfer. Note the angle of the track is the same angle, or should be the same angle, as the incline of the stairs as you transfer through. Once you've transferred off the top step, the second step down, you then have no wheels and the track takes over with friction.
So that video actually shows how it actually takes hold fairly well, and the friction hold means that it won't move forward. From that point, you need to push downwards. So that's the amount of effort that's needed, regardless of the weight that's on there. You've got to push through to make that transfer to make it go down.
The transfer of the evac once coming down the steps, client on the track, go down to the bottom until the wheels touch, then move forward, then transfer your hands onto the handlebar at the back and take the brakes, take it forward to the next set of steps, tilt back, and then take it again over the edge onto the traction on the track.
So hopefully you could see from that video where the yellow bar was, in the middle, about knee height. If you do struggle, put your hand on the brake and put your foot on that particular pivot point and then tilt backwards. So I thought I'd show this with an evacuee strapped in, so you can see how easy it is and how well controlled and comfortable it is. So it's a smooth movement as they descend down the stairwell.
Where possible, on the second person, hold the two handles as you descend. As you can see, it's a nice and stable control movement down the side. Get to the bottom, transfer onto the wheels, and then going to the next row.
So I've used the back stairwell there, which is one of the three that's available on site. That particular stairwell is metal. Some would argue it's probably the most awkward one to go down, but nevertheless, you could see how it was smooth, easy to control. And as I tried to point out, just in case you couldn't hear it, I'd extended the two bars out at the front so that if someone wants to be in front, you can have two people involved in this, a person behind the chair and then one in front to take some of the weight and assist the movement down. Just a quick discussion here about the turning point.
Something that's worth consideration is transfer from one level, stairwell, to another. So you get to the stage where you're on a platform level and then you transfer. You need to be close to this right-hand side, the inner edge of the car, because as you turn through the radius, you get it wrong, you're going to hit the wall. So only stick to the inside rail when you
Okay, straightforward there, but stick to the inner rail, inner edge, so that then you've got that turning moment to go round the corner without. So that's the end of the session. Thank you for your time. What I really would stress is, rather than wait for the emergency to take place, is to actually practice this. It's a skill-based thing, and not only should you just do it once, but you should do it quite a few times so you get it. It reinforces that skill set, and then do refresher training maybe every 6 or 12 months just to keep your hand in. But look after yourselves, take care, and I hope you can use this information in the future. Thank you.